Thanks very much, Chair. I do want to welcome our guests in this morning. Chair, a couple of weeks ago I chaired a private member's bill in the Shannon. I think Mr Heston was actually at that day with the Minister, and the Minister was quite clear that day that she said nobody would lose their payment. Indeed, in your opening statement this morning session, you say you do not wish to create any anxiety or stress to our customers. That's what you say. But many of those people, they feel undervalued, and it's taken up the point that the previous two speakers have said, they feel undervalued at the moment, and it is causing them stress. You know, a green paper like this that may or may not affect their disability payment, and taking the bona fides of the Minister will cause people who at the moment feel undervalued stress. And I think it's very important that we have meetings like this. And as I said in the Shannon that day, that there is maximum public consultation, and that, you know, you might tell us again what levels that has got to and what the engagement has been to date. I know some of them are haven't happened yet. A couple of questions I have. First of all, in relation to invalidity pension, you mentioned that in your opening statement that it can either be done on a contributory basis or via a means test. Now, my understanding at the moment is that there is no means test for invalidity pension. How and what level do you think the means test is going to come in at? So I suppose the question is that if somebody is currently on an invalidity pension through the contributions, are they now going to be assessed as part of the means test as well, or will they still be on a contributory basis? And I thank you, and you might just clarify for that, because these are the queries that I'm getting through my own office, and I'm sure colleagues are getting as well from their own offices as well, and from constituents. Just in relation to DA, and Deputy Queeve was quite clear in relation to the intro, some people are calling it, but the assessments. And I have an issue with this, and I suppose my first and opening question is, who are going to carry out the, as you referred to it here, the offered appropriate employment supports and services? So who are the department going to engage? Is that going to be outsourced? And do you have any plans at the moment, or can you tell us who will actually carry out that on behalf of the department at the moment? Because basically I have a problem that, as Deputy Queeve has called them, those who may not be actively seeking work, and they go into one of those offices, and it seems to me that they're put under pressure to take up employment or to go on courses. And that's my interpretation of it, that's my perception, and that's what I've been told. And I have had, as I've said at this committee before, to fill out disability allowance application forms for those people because of the stress that they were put under when they went to those meetings. So I would like to hear what the department's plans are for those appropriate employment supports and services. I just want to welcome the fact that it's something I've called for a long time, of extending the domiciliary care allowance to 18 years of age. I think that, again, when those people on that were 16 and they were coming into our own offices and filling out those forms for DA, it was stressful for so many families. I take on board what Deputy Queeve said in relation to the amount of money, but I suppose at €330 a month, if that's going to be the payment that's going to continue, then that's something I think that most families would accept. And more importantly, I think important to say, most families need that 16 to 18-year-old is a very difficult period for those that will qualify, and I think that's important. Just in relation to some of the information given us today, can we just confirm that what was said, that there's 32 full-time doctors working in the system? And I just picked up that over 15 schemes. I think it's very useful information for this committee. And finally then, I suppose, in relation to the assessment, the medical assessment, various questions have been asked in relation to that, but is there any idea at the moment of the guidelines that are being talked about in assessments? Is it going to be similar to a disability allowance assessment when you go in there? So a tier 3 person who what will the medical assessment be for them in order to get to a tier 3? And finally, I just had one other one then. At the moment, DA, and correct me if I'm wrong, you can earn up to €165 and not affect your disability allowance. And that obviously goes up to €375 with a 50% reduction on that. So what is there, or is there an amount in relation to those on tier 3 again, sorry, tier 1, whichever one it is, to their ability to actually earn additional money, or is there going to be a cap, as there currently is in relation to disability allowance? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Senator. I'll speak to some of the questions, and I'll ask Sarah to speak to the consultation point and Dev to speak to the medical assessment. On your first point about the means test, will there be a means test for invalidity pension or the replacement for invalidity pension? Short answer is no. So effectively what's going to happen is that there will be two doors into the new payment. So the two doors at the moment are invalidity pension and disability allowance. So invalidity pension is contribution based, disability allowance means based. Those two doors will stay, but they'll have the same sign over them saying personal support payment. So it'll be a bit like it is for the state pension, where you can either qualify based on your contributions with no means test, or else you can get a means tested pension. So that's the intention. So for those people, they won't be subjected to a means test. In terms of the employment services and how we deliver that, at the moment we largely do it through our intro service, but we do rely on the employability service, which is a specialist disability service, so we will most likely have to expand that and rely on that. We also deliver programs currently through dormant accounts funding, which we may have to mainstream, and there are groups all around the country who benefit from that. There are about 27 different organisations, I think. So some of the delivery might be through some of those groups outside the department or in collaboration with them. And I referenced earlier, we've done a project up around the northeast with One Family for lone parents, so it's those sort of collaborations. So I think it'll be a mix of all that. On the DCA, yeah, the period 16 to 18, apologies, I just had to check one point while you were asking a question, so I hope I haven't missed it, but you can clarify if I miss the point. Yeah, the 16 to 18 period, what we're essentially proposing there is there would be some sort of transition for people over the next number of years. You know, so in other words, it might kick in for children who are currently 14, but for anyone who's already sort of 15, 16, 17, they will continue in the current system. That's something that we've consulted on before. We've got mixed feedback, but more leaning towards making the change than not making the change. So we want to test where people are at on that now. In terms of the means test for DA, you know, Senator, when I was back here on the straw man and pay related benefit, I mentioned that we were looking at a working age payment model. And so what we've asked in the green paper is for people's views on whether that would work for people on disability allowance as well. At the moment, as you say, it's 165 is the disregard. So basically you can earn, you're at sort of 495 before you lose your payment in total. And what we tend to see is that people work right up to the 165 level and then stop because they don't want their payment, and they're also concerned about secondary benefits. So what we're putting as, thanks Adrian, so what we suggested in the green paper is that would it be worth looking at that working age model, which is kind of like working family payment. So essentially if you're your working family payment is missing two categories, which is childless couples and single people. So you'd effectively add those two categories with an appropriate threshold, and basically say if the threshold was, just to make the sums easy, say if it was €500 and you earn €400, you keep 60% of the difference, so you keep €60. So it means that people, while keeping an eye on the threshold, can vary their work, and they can work out what it will mean for them in terms of a top-up payment. And it gets over issues, some of the clunkiness we have around disregards and you know, days worked and so on. So that's the idea. But it is an issue, even on the straw man discussion for pay related benefit. People were, the general tone of the response we got was, sounds like it might be okay, but we'd need to learn a bit more about it. So I suspect we'll get similar feedback there. So I might ask Sarah to cover the consultation point, and then Dev on the assessment then, please.
Yep, thank you. So just to say that before we launched the consultation and the green paper, we had engaged with a number of disability organisations and DPOs just around the consultation process and how we'd make it as accessible as possible. And we took a lot of that feedback on board around having hybrid events and allowing people whose first language is sign language to be able to do video submissions and everything. So we do have we have easy to read versions. You can do video submissions, and as Ronan has already said, we have about 120 submissions already through the website. But most organisations won't be submitting anything until closer to the closing date. So what we've done in terms of events so far, last week we had a consultation event with stakeholders. We had about 50 people representing different groups, organisations and DPOs in person and online. And we had a number of really good workshops and discussions, and the feedback from each of those workshops, and one of the workshops was online as well, the feedback from all of those is going to be part of kind of our deliberations and our consultation. We have events planned for November. So on the 9th of November, there's a very large public consultation event happening in Dublin Castle. Registration is open for that at the moment, and we already have over 100 people who are registered for that event. And again, there will be presentations from international experts. There'll be a presentation from Indicon, who did the cost of disability report, and also from the department, and then workshops as well, so that people can kind of I suppose, discuss the various aspects of the report and what they feel is working and not working. We also then are holding 2 events around the country. So as part of the consultation process, we had a survey asking people which regions would suit them best. And Athlone and Cork came out on top. So we already have, I think, maybe 12, 13 people registered for both of those locations. The Athlone one is happening on the 23rd of November, and the Cork one's happening on the 14th of November. And again, all the information about that is up on the gov.ie page. And we're open to more events. If people want events held in other places, we're absolutely open to do that. We are also then meeting with some of the DPOs who want to have meetings with us. We're also having meetings with them throughout November and December as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next speaker, I have.
Sorry, can I just get? Sorry.
Just like to clarify on the medical assessments. First thing to say is, I really would like this to go out that people who have serious disabilities or medical conditions need not fear. I don't really know how to emphasize that this isn't, we're not trying to cash people out. We're trying to support people maybe to address the cost of living in this categorization where you'd expect a higher cost for people with the most severe condition. So I think that's what we're trying to do here. The medical assessments that we do in the department is evolved with time. We've looked at other models out there, and you know, a lot of jurisdictions have moved from the old-fashioned traditional medical model that believed in a disability as a result of a health condition, and to alleviate the disability, you treat the health condition without any regard to the psychological or social or environmental barriers. And moving on from that model, the UK, there are other jurisdictions that follow a functional capacity model. And this is a little bit more evolved. It takes into effect a range of actions that somebody can perform. And it gives descriptors to that range. It divides that range of an action or activity into 5 grades, and it gives a numerical value. And the descriptors are a description to the range that a person can do. And for all the body faculties, there are these descriptors, and mobility is treated separately. So there's numerical values, and the medical assessor's job is like just to explain what the action is and to observe what range the person can do and to give a numerical value. So it's a little bit fragmented. It's not giving a complete picture of the disability as a whole, how that person can function in society. So we've moved from that system to a more recent, it derives, fundamental is from the International Classification of Function, which is again a World Health Organization international classification, like you have for disease conditions, the ICD-10. So similarly, the ICF is the International Classification for Function, Disability and Health. And it not only looks at the biological condition, but it also looks at the psychological sequelae that can arise from a primary condition, primary mental health condition, or is very often seen as a chronic sequelae of long-term ill health, chronic pain, and so on. So it tries to take that into consideration and how that person functions and participates in society.
This is what you term the biosocial.
The biopsychosocial model.
Biopsychosocial assessment.
And our forms are designed to capture that kind of information from customers. And I keep repeating that the more information that's provided to us, the better quality decision making we can do at claim stage, rather than having to review and appeal. So that's the model that we follow. And it's not new, this grading of ill health and disability. We've been practicing it in our partial capacity scheme. We were very interested when it was introduced, 2012. I remember how uplifting it was for the medical assessors in the department to see that they can do something more where the severity of the illness is more. And they can allow people who have capacity and interest and ambition to return to work, they could allow that. Prior to that, the rules were, if you're claiming an invalid pension, you can't work, that kind of rule. So that was very, very positive, and I think this is following on from that model. And you'll be surprised to see that there are a lot of people with disabilities currently in our scheme that have an ambition and intention to want to work to whatever capacity or level they can. It gives them that social inclusion, it gives them that respect, that dignity. So I think we should respect that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.